8:27. Good morning. Let's keep it on the phones here, where it's an issue we really discussed last on Friday, and we wanted to bring Angelina from the Guam Homeless Coalition on to kind of talk about this issue. Angelina, I guess we'll just. Good morning, by the way, Chris and Sabrina. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess we'll just start at the beginning. What was your initial reaction when you found out about the homeless being told to vacate the pavilions at Paseo, and if you could and other parks, and how did you find out?
So actually we found out when somebody shared it from Facebook. It's been, when the issue came up before with the shelter in Agana many months ago, it seems like prior to COVID, we were shocked then too, because we had not been made aware that they were even considering that. And at the time, I mentioned to you that we at the coalition, we realized that homelessness is a community issue. It's not one that any one entity can solve. And so we were really disappointed when we weren't made aware of the efforts that the administration was putting forth. And in this situation, when these people were told to vacate Paseo, we were really shocked because no one had ever consulted with us or just informed us that this is what they were going to do, so that we as an entity could come out and do some outreach and try and assist them. There was a situation when there were some homeless people squatting in a house up in Dededo near Guam, San Jose, and when Gura was looking at tearing those buildings down or repurposing them, they reached out to the coalition and asked us to go out, do outreach, see what kind of services we can provide. It was a very coordinated effort. And in this situation, I was really shocked because the administration has reached out to us to meet sporadically about the hardened shelter. And we've given our input several times, and it's so easy for them to call us when they need it. But in this situation, I was just surprised that no one had reached out to any of us, and we all, we spoke amongst ourselves that none of the entities had been approached as coming out to see if we can assist those people who were there before they were chased out.
Mm-hmm. But Mr. Birch, he explain to us, the bigger, we have to look at the bigger picture here, where we have to clean up these public parks, get them ready as we prepare to reopen tourism, and that's the center of our economy.
Mm-hmm.
How would you respond to that?
I do agree that is an important effort that needs to be made. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done. I'm just saying that if the administration announced that they were going to build a shelter or create some sort of thing there in Agana, and then now plans have changed and they're chasing these people out, then they should have offered, reached out and said, we can't do this, but can the different entities of the Homeless Coalition come out and see how we can assist these people who can no longer stay here.
Right.
Mm-hmm. When's the last time, I guess, the administration has reached out to the Homeless Coalition?
As far as I'm aware, it's the Homeland Security has reached out to us a few times to participate in their planning meetings for the hardened shelter. It's been a while.
Who at Homeland Security is the POC, point of contact?
Maria, I'm sorry, I can't even say her last name. It starts with an R.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we've met with them a couple of times, along with our the director from Gora. That we had a meeting with our Homeless Coalition officers to discuss the shelter and our views on it. We offered our input, and at that time, we had told them that the homeless needed assistance now. They didn't need to wait until the hardened shelter came up. And so our proposal at the time was that we do a joint outreach with public health, because the concern was the spread of COVID. And they just kept pushing towards the hardened shelter. So on the side, public health is a very integral partner in the Homeless Coalition. So our entities got together and we just planned our own outreach, which is what was done not too long ago by Public Health at the different locations. And so that project was what we were pushing to do from the beginning. You know, we don't want to wait until there's a hardened shelter to come up with these services that need to be done. And the push has always been, I feel, from the administration standpoint, to do the hardened shelter. You know, which is fine. They have a plan. They have a end in mind. That's fine. You know, as I said before, we all need to work together to solve the problem of homelessness. But it can't be a this is my way or no way at all.
Well, I was going to just ask, you know, what is your response to the argument that, you know, well, some of the homeless people, they don't want to go into a hardened shelter or shelter for that matter. They don't want to, you know, get a job.
They like being homeless.
Yeah.
You know,
we were hearing that. That's actually something that John Birch had said, was that, and you know, to me, I think that's anecdotal. Like, maybe, sure, there's a couple that, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Is that something you guys have ran into?
I agree with what you're saying, that there's different reasons why people are homeless and different reasons why they stay homeless. But it's just like you can't say that all Chamorros are lazy. You can't say that all homeless don't want to be housed. I mean, I'm Chamorro. I'm not lazy. Chris, Sabrina, you're not lazy. You know what I'm saying? You cannot make a generalization like that.
That's why I always ask for numbers. Like, if you're going to throw something like that out, and I think the intent is that when they throw that out there, that all of a sudden you're supposed to be like, oh, okay, that they want it. Never mind, guys. Cool. Stand down.
It's a very real thing to say, is that a lot of people who have been street homeless have difficulty being housed. It's not that they don't want to be housed, but, you know, if you were to put them, let's say, in an apartment, they're going to want all the windows, all the doors. That feeling of being enclosed is something difficult to transition to. But, you know, just like when we have our homeless outreaches, one year, one of our members had this great idea that we were going to have our passport services at a Ganya shopping center because they offered the venue. But none of the homeless wanted to come inside to access services because there's this stigma.
Right.
You know, they're like, I'm dirty. I you know, these people always chase us out of here. So we quickly learned our lesson that, okay, this is not happening. So we took all our stuff out of the facility into the parking lot and we hopped them there. Because the purpose isn't to say, oh, we look good, here we are. It's like to get out there and help these people.
Right.
So from that point on, we've been doing it at Paseo. We went back to our original what's worked in the past, which was Paseo Mayor's office. So these people who are homeless, if you reach out to any of our homeless outreach teams, they can probably very easily identify who the regulars are, who the people are that they've been working with. Just as, you know, it takes a lot of us many years to decide to go back to school. Even more so, somebody who's been homeless, it takes a while for them to like get to that point where they're ready to be housed. You know, there's all these barriers in place, like you know, employment and education and just feeling like nobody cares and that you're just saying this right now, but what happens if you put me there and it doesn't work out? I'm going to lose this place that I call my own. So there's a lot of things to consider.
Angelina, what's the status of the shelters that we do have on island?
So we have Guma San Jose up in Dededo, and we have the men's shelter, Guma San Jose Men's Shelter. Those are our only two long-term homeless shelters. Sanctuary has facility for youth, and of course there's places like Alley, which is specific to that population. But when COVID happened, all of these shelters had they stopped taking in new people because they're trying to, you know, minimize. So once you were there, if you left, you couldn't come back. So the shelters, when we had our last Homeless Coalition meeting, they reported that they were all full and are starting to take in some new clients. some maybe just as an I don't want to say outpatient, but more of a drop-in. But we definitely need more help than what we have available.
Right.
GORA has some new funding. They're looking at ways they can expand it. We have money to house people who meet certain criteria, and if they don't meet that criteria, then we reach out to our partners to see what we can do to assist them.
Mm-hmm. You know, based on the outreach that you guys conducted with the expanded testing and the passport services that was held a couple of weeks ago, did you guys see any? I don't know if you guys are doing numbers, but did you see an increase in homeless?
You know, we do track our numbers every time we conduct these outreaches. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the numbers that we had found. There wasn't too many new people, individuals and families. Whenever we do an outreach, if there is a family with young children, we immediately try and see what we can do to get them off the street. And then a lot of times when it's individuals or couples, there are people that we've been working with. And, you know, like I said, it's not we have a house come and they come in today. It's a process of building a rapport with them and ensuring that they understand that we're not just talking, that we're really trying to help you. What are your unique situations? Because once we house you, we want to prevent you from becoming homeless again. So, you know, there's a lot of things to consider. And our Homeless Coalition partners are really, they really have their heart into the work that we do. And so it gets frustrating when we hear things like this, where they're being chased out of Paseo, and all of us were like, what? They call us for everything. Why didn't they call us and say, oh, we're going to chase these people out, just so you know, and then we would just take it upon ourselves to go out and do outreach.
So when you found out, though, was there any kind of conversation that happened after you heard about them being kicked out of the parks?
Did you call someone and shoo somebody out?
It was the Facebook post that came on, and then our officers were discussing it, trying to find out, you know, before we jumped the gun, did they really reach out to any of us? It doesn't have to be the coalition as a whole, but did they reach out to GORA? Did they reach out to public health? Manyatlu, who may need to provide some sort of translation services, or any of us, and the consensus was no. And I felt like a lot of our members felt discouraged, that, you know, here we are trying to talk about hardened shelter, and there's people here who need help, and you didn't reach out to us for that, but we're so focused on this hardened shelter, which, you know, in the long run, it might be a good thing, but today, these people need help today, and what are we doing?
Yeah, so Angelina, we know that, again, they're saying that we're close to something this week, right? But you're right, today, what are we going to do today? What type of a solution would you, if you were calling the shots, what type of solution would you want them to do? Are you, could we use maybe CARES Act funding for something, you know, temporary? Because I think that's one of the ways you could use that CARES Act funding. So I guess just stopgap, right? You're talking stopgap.
Right.
Because it is a bad look. We kick them out of Paseo, then we don't kick them out because there's a big backlash, and then they're continuing to stay there. Do you think that it behooves our government to maybe put them up at a room somewhere, or, you know, I'm not saying 5-star, but I mean, God, something.
I've heard some of the comments about, like, you know, we've been paying for these rooms and Noah was in it. Could we just put them there? That, I mean, it's an option if they wanted to pursue that. But then, you know, the same thing I was saying, how the homeless didn't want to come into a Gagnon shopping center for our outreach. Who knows if all of them or any of them would be willing to go into whatever hotel is being used at that time. The thing that gets me is that many of these people who did not already stay in Agana came to Agana when this announcement was put out. Right. And so it just doesn't seem right that you say, hey, we're going to do this here, everybody come here, then when they're there, you say, go away because we're not ready to do it, and you're in our way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow up with what you were saying after establishing within the coalition that nobody knew about this eviction.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after that?
So this was a conversation we had, I don't remember if it was Thursday or Friday night. We were talking about it, trying to say, no one had reached out to us. And so our different groups conduct regular outreaches and different organizations within the coalition. And Paseo and the people there is someone that we've reached out to in the past. So I believe that some of them who had a Friday outreach went there. I don't know if there's anyone today who's heading that way, but they're very much aware of who these people are because we've reached out to them in the past. As we watched the interview on, I guess
that was us.
Oh, disconnected.
Well, I'm pretty sure she's going to call back. We'll take just a real quick break, and we'll get Angelina back on to wrap this conversation at 8:44. It's Containing COVID. Good morning.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we